Welcome back to Extraordinary Strides, where we push the limits of what's possible, both on the road and in life. And hello, friends. I'm Coach Christine. Today, we've got, of course, a very exciting episode, but you guys are really going to know that this is my love language here because we get to talk about travel and running. And while I've been lucky enough to run some of the World Marathon majors, I know firsthand what it takes to tackle some of those different facets of destination races. I didn't approach this alone. I brought in a ringer. I brought in a professional. So today I'm joined by someone who brings a very incredible, knowledgeable expertise to the table. We've got Ashley with us today. She's our officially Extraordinary Strides travel agent. I'm not kidding, my friends. Truly, everyone who's going to do runDisney, we send them over to Ashley because she's always going to be able to make sure to take care of it and make your vacation and your runcation absolutely perfect. But another thing that you may not know is that a lot of folks like to tackle a little bit of maybe a floating vacation. And she's going to tell us all about how you can handle that aspect as well, cruising the seas or tackling runDisney at a theme park. So before we get too far into it, let me go ahead and welcome Ashley in. Ashley, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. It's nice to be back again.
Exactly. Friend of the podcast. Friends, we do have a really incredible special download for you, a Runcation travel packing checklist and a travel distances for cruises like this. She created this resource. It's absolutely amazing because one thing that I come across is when you guys are tackling cruises, you want to know how do you stay on your fitness regimen. And well, Ashley provided us with the resource. You can find that link in episode notes. So stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Let's go ahead though. With Ashley here, I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite race destination you've done so far? I'm going to start with that one first. Let's do that one as an icebreaker.
So I really think my favorite one so far, view-wise, has been Erie. So I did the Erie Half Marathon a couple years ago. It is one that I definitely will be going back to at some point. But you run around Prescott, Erie, and it is so beautiful running through the state park and seeing the sunrise because it is dark when you start. But the sun rises over kind of the beach and stuff, and you're running along that area, and it's just a really special view. So that's definitely one of my top races view-wise that I have done.
So it's definitely scenic and it's flat, right? I think
yes,
so.
It is,
okay.
It's very much flat. I don't even remember what the elevation change was, but it's very much flat for the most part.
And tell me what you think your dream race location would be that's still on your bucket list. If you only could narrow it down to one, because truly, Ashley, you love travel and you love running. And I feel like if you could, you would do a runcation per week. So if you could narrow it down to one, what is like the primary dream race location on your bucket list?
So this is kind of a race that I've been eyeing up for a while. I wanted to do it this year because I have a friend that lives in this location, but I really want to do the Honolulu Marathon. It just is so dreamy there. It's such a time change. So it's definitely going to be difficult from that aspect. I wanted, like I said, to do it because I have a friend that's there that's trying to tackle it this year. But it's just so beautiful. I've been to Hawaii before. There's no views like it. I mean, it's just, pictures don't do it justice. It's definitely something that I think I could really just lock into, and you have no idea that you're running.
So are you still saying that for you, it's definitely the marathon distance still has your heart?
Absolutely. I'm that crazy person.
You are that crazy person. And I blame you for most of my bad decisions of getting back into the marathon distance because I love the half, but you speak about the marathon distance in such an incredible way. Okay, enough about that and blaming you for it. Let's blame you for all the good things that comes down to travel. One of the things is that you're with Mystical Dream Travel. And again, as I mentioned, you're like a go-to resource for anybody who needs information with traveling. I want to know, can you explain exactly what it means to work with a travel agent? Because I think that there's a lot of confusion as to what that looks like.
Yeah, and that's, I think, kind of the tale as old as time. A lot of travel agencies opened once upon a time, and you paid a fee to use their services. That is not the case with me. My services are complimentary. If you book with me, I kind of go through the whole process with you. You're paying the same price as you would if you're paying that vendor directly, whether it be Royal Caribbean, Virgin Voyage, Disney, Universal, any of those vendors. You're paying that same kind of price that you're paying them. What's different is you get my knowledge. You get those extra travel tips. You get reminders that your dining reservations are in a couple days. Let's talk through what options you have. Let's make those park reservations. And you always have my knowledge that you can kind of tap into if there's something that you want to talk through. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Kind of just that level of extra service. If something goes wrong on your vacation, I've definitely, unfortunately, have had that situation where somebody's on vacation, something doesn't go right. I'm that one on the phone trying to figure it out and get that resolution so you can be enjoying your vacation and not letting it put that damper on you and you're stressing about how am I going to get this figured out. That's something that I am there for. I'm there to walk my clients from booking the entire way through their return back home.
So what would be some of the questions or challenges that maybe folks that are looking at booking their own runcation that you can help point them toward, like in helping them resolve?
So a lot of the times everybody is not sure, specifically speaking to runDisney, because that's where most of us love to run. Specifically speaking to that, they don't know what resort's best. I've kind of come up with my own mental list of, okay, this race weekend, this resort had bus issues. This race weekend, okay, there's an issue over here with something expo related. I kind of watch all of the pages and kind of take that knowledge down and kind of find the trends just to better educate those that want to book with me. Okay, this is what I've seen in the past. It's nothing that can be guaranteed. It's one way or the other, but this is historically what has happened. More specifically, just as kind of an example to share with everybody, I personally stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge and Princess weekend last year. I had bus issues. We were on a bus for over an hour circling the parking lot, trying to get to the race that we were early for. And same issue happened again this race weekend that we just passed at Wine and Dine. So kind of just something that I keep on my radar of, hey, this is what's happening at this specific resort. If you're going for a race weekend, I'm not going to specifically recommend that just because of the history of those issues. So kind of keeping that in the back of my mind. And that's the information that you're not thinking of.
Right.
Whether if it's another race destination, I know a lot of us are going to Shamrock weekend with the Extraordinary League, kind of coordinating all of that. What restaurants are good? Where do we need to go? Is there something that we all want to book as a group that I can book us and get us all together? We know we're all going to be together. So looking at those different aspects of the trip that you might not think of when you're booking your own.
I love that, because actually what comes to mind is specifically how many Facebook group pages there are dedicated to some of these races, like the World Marathon Majors. There's tons of different Facebook group pages. runDisney, I've lost count how many there are. Seriously, because every race weekend even has their own dedicated ones. And I don't know about the listeners, but it's almost impossible to stay attuned to all the different facets of the issues that can come up at the different resorts, different things that can happen those weekends. But that's your job. So it's something that you take great pride in, and you're able to relay that and also kind of see anything that may be coming the way for your clients, so that you can make sure that they have that truly magical expectation and it actually becomes reality. So I love that. I love that you, again, have helped steer us in the right way. And as you mentioned, for Shamrock, we do have, thanks to Ashley, a room block, and we are all ready to be in a great kind of environment where we get to support each other in that community and stay in the same hotel in the same area. So I'm so excited about that. Okay. Let's talk about cruises, because I'm going to tell you right here and now, this is an area I know nothing about. So one thing that's come to mind is the fact that so many athletes that want to stay on top of their training regimen want to have that discussion of, do I run on a treadmill or do I run on the deck? What would your suggestion be right out of the gate?
For me personally, I am a notorious run on the treadmill.
Okay.
I know a lot of people refer to it as the dreadmill, or they name theirs to kind of make it a better experience. I am the same way on a cruise ship. Yes, a lot of the ships do have those running decks, but I'm kind of starting to see a shift of the new ships aren't having running tracks, which is kind of interesting to me. So on some of the ships that are newer, you might only have the option of running on a treadmill. But the kind of catch is you have the ocean typically to look at. A lot of those kind of workout rooms, gyms, whatever you want to call them, typically are overlooking the ocean. So whether you're in the Bahamas, in Alaska, you always have those wonderful views of wherever you're at that you can kind of run to. And if you're at sea, it's still fun to look at the ocean too. Another thing I love to do is prop up an iPad, prop up your phone, put on a movie or a podcast or something like that to help you pass the time. But it's still, you are on vacation. You're having those wonderful views right outside of your window.
I love the way she talks about it, guys, because her like face lights up and she's like, you're on vacation. How can you have a bad run? It's absolutely gorgeous on these cruise ships. But you just nailed something that I wouldn't have even thought of, that there's a possibility that people may be booking cruises that don't even have a deck. So it's something where, again, working with you, you'd be able to steer them if that's something that really means a lot to them. So they're well aware of to have that appropriate expectation or know that they're going to have to potentially head over to the treadmill. So for you, you have had the pleasure of being able to cruise and you've tackled your training during that. So did you have a specific cruise ship that you loved the most for your training?
Oh, that's a hard one because they're all wonderful in their own way. I mean, obviously, when you're on vacation, you don't want to be so focused on that training. But as we know, life happens.
Right.
We pick races that we have to be training while we're on vacation. At least you have those nice views. But any kind of ship has their own different offering. I know a lot of the ships have the spa that you can go have a different massage or go into the sauna or something like that after your run. So to pick a certain ship, I don't really think I have one.
Okay. So that's fair, which brings me to the next question that I have for you, because I think, again, I talk a lot about runcation specifically in destination races as in traveling that way. But realistically, is that a lot of us are booking family vacations that don't necessarily have a running destination in mind. And there's that aspect of staying and focused on the training. And you nailed it. We want to make sure that we can stay consistent without sacrificing the fun of being on vacation. So you've already mentioned kind of putting yourself in the mindset of you're in a beautiful location. What I love that you're kind of using a little bit of bribery of a sauna or massage in the spa afterwards. Are there other tips that you would give folks to kind of be able to enjoy that training while on a cruise ship?
So I think kind of just keeping in mind, if you're traveling with your family, what is important to them. If you have a family of older kids or something like that, they might not mind if you duck out for a little while and do a training run first thing in the morning. Making sure that you're not prioritizing that training while you're on vacation over your family time when you're traveling with a family, because that's why we do it, to spend time with our loved ones. But when you are traveling, that's still important to get your time in. So does it look like while you're at home, you're still getting up at those 5 a.m. wake up calls to go do your run, get it out of the way, and then you can enjoy the rest of the day with your family? Or does it look like talking with your coach and seeing, are there other things, other activities that I can do in destination that can kind of equate to that training? A lot of the destinations have different levels of fitness for the different excursions that we can kind of curate and figure out, okay, you can't get a run in this day because you're in, say, Mexico, and you want to explore that, but maybe you take a shore excursion that has a little more activity involved rather than sitting in a lounger on the beach. So you're still experiencing the island in the area that you're in, but you're still getting that fitness in. And you're including your family too, because they get to see all the same views you do.
I think that's the most perfect response for the record, because we want running and training and movement to always be a focus of adding to your life, but not necessarily detracting from life. So absolutely, when you're on vacation, it's about making memories, making connection. And if you can involve the family in making these memories and making that connection through excursions, or if you have a destination that you're traveling to and you want to tackle maybe a little bit of a tour together, there's so many ways of adding it in without it feeling like it's just going to the gym or just focusing it on being like what you may do at home. So Absolutely. I'm curious now, because one of the things that I find that is really difficult for folks is fueling and hydration with traveling. Because let's be honest, we want to eat all the yummy food and we want to drink. I want to imbibe on an adult beverage or two when I'm traveling. So what are some of your go-to strategies for staying fueled and hydrated when you are traveling and want to take into account some running specifically?
So I obviously pay attention to my water. We all want to enjoy our vacation. So we do have those kind of adult beverages and share with that, but also keeping in mind that you're out in the sun sometimes, or even say you're in Alaska, you still need to fuel with that water and make sure that you're getting the electrolytes and everything like that in. So kind of finding that balance, making sure I'm getting that in. I might carry a water bottle around the ship with me personally, just so I make sure, okay, if it's in my hand, I'm going to drink it. So let's keep up on that. Kind of in my food, I'm all for, you can try new things because you're on vacation. Why not? But I do kind of keep in mind that I am running. If I do have that long run, I'm looking more for those carbs, that pasta and stuff like that the night before. So kind of focusing still back to what is my next activity I'm going to do? How do I properly need to fuel my body? And kind of taking that into consideration when I'm picking what I'm eating, even though all of the food looks so yummy.
So I think that that's really important to know is that, again, when it depends on what our goal is. If we're traveling for a vacation and we're just trying to add in, sneak in a training run or kind of maintain our typical training or a version of our typical training, definitely say yes to all of the extra fun, right? That's what it's literally vacation. And we don't want you to not live your life. Now, this might be a whole different conversation if your runcation is also your destination race and you have to take into mind if you have a fussier tummy or whatever it is that you require, as Ashley mentioned, in terms of your sourcing, your energy source for your actual race. So I want to know, you personally, how do you handle traveling for a race versus when you're actually on vacation just for fitness?
So I think a lot of it kind of goes back to looking into, okay, I know I'm going down to Orlando for a race. This is what that weather currently looks like. I'm going to try to manipulate that as best I can. Whether it be those cold winter days. Okay, I know I'm going to Orlando. I can't do all my races outside. That might be nice.
Right.
I'm going to run those inside. So I'm dripping sweat by the end of it. It might not be fun, but I'm simulating what I'm going to actually be running in say 3 weeks when I'm in Disney running that. If I'm planning on a race in a cold climate, I'm going to train in those cold climates. So I might transfer my runs outside. I just did a race not long ago in Pittsburgh. That was at the start time. I think it was 35 degrees outside. And then by the end of it, it was 60 degrees. So doing some of that last minute training run outside, this is the kind of weather that I have to adapt to and figure out, how do I fuel? What do I do appropriately? Do I need that salt because I'm going to be sweating a lot, or do I need more of the electrolytes to try to refuel my system? You had a very similar situation that you were training in the opposite. You were training in very, very high temperatures and high humidity. And your race day ended up being very chilly, which is kind of a nice change.
It's
but
happened to me every single
adapt.
fall race. Yeah, that's the story of my life for any destination fall race that I've had. So I think that you kind of nailed it, right? Like we want to try to simulate as much as possible, but realistically, that's not always going to be able to happen. So what I have always suggested to folks in regards to that is also when you are traveling for a destination race where the weather could be vastly different, you need to utilize your strategies that you implement during that similar weather in a regular season. So I know that there's certain leggings that work for me that don't have chafing or whatever the case may be. And while I didn't train with them this entire summer, clearly I would have died. I knew that I could use them because I've used them in previous years where it got colder. So I think kind of taking a little bit of that previous experience, and if the previous experience isn't quite there, then it is more of trying to just keep to what you do know within a comfort zone and then adding to it appropriately or taking away appropriately, be it clothing or being it fueling and electrolytes. I am a big fan though, friends. Don't mess with your electrolytes or your hydration, regardless if it's cold or hot, quite too much in terms of you shouldn't underhydrate or hydrate a lot less because it's colder, because if you're racing the race versus running it, but if you're racing it, you're going to be generating your body temperature at least 20 degrees. It's going to feel like a 20 degrees more than what the temperature is outside. So you want to continue replenishing that. You're still going to sweat quite a bit. So that becomes a little bit more about just managing that outer layer of your clothing. So that's a lot that we could definitely dig into that. But I want to also talk a little bit more about recovery after a big race with Runcations and how to balance that, because I feel like you're the go-to individual on it because you've tackled some really big races during your perfect runDisney season and then did have a little bit of celebration at the parks afterwards.
So I think a big thing is making sure you're listening to your body. If your body is saying sit, take that break. If it says, okay, I can keep going, go for it. I always like after my races to not make any specific plans that involve being around. If it's something sitting around, sure, absolutely. I'll do that all day long because I can do that whether I'm feeling good or feeling really bad. But the last thing I'm going to do is go out for, say, a marathon and then say, oh yeah, I'll meet you at the parks at noon or something like that, and kind of overshoot myself, because after a marathon, you're typically tired. You just want to kind of do your own thing. So I will make those plans. Okay, maybe let's do it the next day. Give me my day to kind of figure out what's going on, where my legs are stopped moving. But also another thing that really struck with me throughout my perfect season, and even this past weekend, is although you're warm after you finish your race is when you really feel the weather outside. Yeah. Take the Mylar if they're giving it. Those volunteers have been standing there to give you this Mylar. It means it's cold. If it's after, say, this has happened a couple times in runDisney, especially in September when they had the Halloween races in Anaheim. Take the cooling towels. It is hot outside. Do anything to bring your body temperature down. One thing I know personally myself is I will look at somebody like one of the volunteers, or if I have a spectator down there, okay, what is it outside? I can't figure out the temperature based off of my skin because you've been running for how long? You don't feel the same temperature. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. This past race weekend, when it was 35 degrees, when I finished, it was like 60. It was still cold because there was no sun, there was wind. So I took the Mylar, I put it around me on the walk back to the car. I was very thankful that I had that Mylar blanket once I cooled off. So make sure you're properly taking that stuff. If you're going to Disney, throw the Mylar in your gear check. Don't take it across the start line so you're not messing up your time.
You'll definitely get in trouble with the race announcers, no doubt about that.
Absolutely. So don't make sure you're not taking it across the start line, but make sure you have something on hand in case they're not giving it out. It's better safe than sorry when you're kind of messing with that stuff. Take the extra race shoes. I know after I finished Dopey, I made sure I had my UFOs in my bag that I gear checked. As soon as I finished that race, grabbed my gear check, I went over on that parking lot and I took my shoes off and sat there. Once I was ready to get up, I made sure I had those UFOs, something that was comfortable on my feet other than those tennis shoes, because you've just been wearing them for hours. By the time you're in the corrals and you run the race and get through the finish line chute, just make sure you have stuff that if you're jumping off the treadmill at home or you're coming back from a long run, what are you doing? Are you putting those recovery shoes on? Are you taking them off and walking around barefoot? Whatever is comfortable for you that you're doing at home, make sure you're replicating that after your race.
I think that's genius to talk about, because I don't think that we think about that. We think so much about the start line and getting to that start line. So I know we could talk about like throwaway layers or how to handle the corrals, but we don't necessarily think about what we need afterward. And that's such an important component, because as you mentioned, that is pivotal. Your recovery starts immediately after you start that. Like, you're stopped running, you cross that finish line, and that's a beautiful feeling, but that's where your recovery starts. And that's where we need to implement these kind of aspects of returning your body to the most natural component that it can be. So of course, you're going to be regulating your body's working hard at that point, and it's trying to regulate as much as it possibly can. So you want to give it all of these extra creature comforts, essentially, to help it actually get back to a point where it starts being able to recover and heal and bring you back into that good, comfortable place. I love how you first, I was giggling a little bit when you were talking about it, when you're like, don't overschedule yourself on big race day, because I think a lot of us are at home and we're seeing all the things that are happening when we're making our plans. And we're like, I'm going to have tons of energy and I want to do all those things. And there's no guarantee that that's actually how you're going to feel that day. So I like the being a little bit more casual, a little bit more loosey-goosey with how you feel on race day afterwards, and giving yourself that opportunity. Okay. I'm excited to keep this conversation going. And I have to ask you this, because although runDisney is your jam, I mean, it's got your heart. We know that for a fact. And I know that cruising is one of your things that you love. I also know that you book travel for lots of folks that are maybe looking for river cruises or going to Europe or overseas. So it's not just necessarily runDisney or Walt Disney World or Disneyland. How do you suggest folks deal with time changes, time zones, and kind of feeling a little bit of that sluggishness? What are your tips on that?
So I think obviously practicing what your conditions are going to be. So getting those early wake ups, especially anytime you're traveling outside of your time zone, try to acclimate yourself as close as you can to that time zone slowly, the week leading up into it, at least a little bit before then. When you're from the East Coast, Disneyland races were perfectly a breeze, because it was like I was just getting up at home for work.
Yeah.
So it's perfect that way. But I know a lot of the folks that run in Florida and Walt Disney World are from California because they didn't have it out there for so many years. So they had to travel for it. Just making sure that you're acclimated for that, making sure you're being mindful of your own time. Again, not making plans for 9 o'clock before a race night, especially if you are from the West Coast coming to the East Coast. You don't want to be doing that, but making sure you're being mindful of that, going to bed on time, putting the phone down, turning off the TV, and letting your mind shut off so that you can go to bed at a reasonable time, kind of counting that out ahead of time, making your plans, and adapting to where you're going to be when you're running the race.
As part of having you as my travel agent, can you come take away my phone so that I can go to bed on time before a race, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Friends, I can't guarantee that she's going to offer that with every single booking, but I do know that she has your best interest at heart. So she will give you some gentle reminders, I'm sure. One thing I will say that I've used in the past, and I do want to call it out here, is I'm a big fan of time shifting. And I used it specifically for Tokyo. So I've used it ever since then. So friends, if you are thinking, and it's exactly what Ashley just described about practicing and training, but specifically time shifting when you're going to travel, starts about 7 days out. and you start to kind of live your life according to what your new world is going to look like when you get to the other side. So if you guys want more information on that, you're always welcome to send me an email. But right here and now, we can keep this fun going because I want to talk about some of the other aspects of traveling with you. So I'm going to ask you now, you've trained on cruises, you've trained in theme parks. They all have their own challenges. What's the funniest or strangest thing that's happened to you while training in these locations? Or weirdest? Not, you don't have to call anyone out. We're not going to tell you. You don't have to tell us the cruise ship that it happened in or any of the parks, but just curious.
I really think it has to be something that happened at home, is like that fear of, okay, don't trip or don't look like a weirdo when you're running outside because you know somebody's watching. And that has definitely happened to me. I've definitely tripped and I'm like, nobody saw that. But a car came up behind me and was like, are you okay? I was like, yep, I'm good.
Oh, well, at least they were looking out for you.
Yes. But it's definitely not something that you wanted to happen. It's happened to me while I was walking around and just your feet get tangled and you're like, oh, okay.
So you love planning and you love making people's dreams come true. But I'm curious, if you had an unlimited budget and all the time in the world, what would your ultimate post-race vacation be?
I really think my post-race vacation today, because I have not done it personally, is doing a cruise to Alaska. There's something about Alaska that seems so relaxing. You just kind of hang out when you're looking at the glaciers, and just picking the right cruise destination. I really think that would be something that I would love to do post-race. Just kind of relax, sit back, take in the views, go see the different things that Alaska has to offer. But I really think that's kind of like my big bucket list thing to kind of finish it off in Alaska.
Do you think you see yourself tackling the 50 states and that's like how you tackle your 50th state?
Absolutely.
I could hear that coming. There's so much love for it. Okay. With that, I'm curious, just a couple more questions for folks that are going to be traveling a bit. So would you recommend sightseeing before or after?
I always say after. You can do a little bit a couple days before, but keeping in mind that you're going to be running, so you might not want to pick those extra strenuous activities a couple days before. Save those for after. I was just kind of thinking through some things for the Pittsburgh Marathon that I will be tackling next year, and we will have some Extraordinary League folks in here. Might try to surprise you guys with some things that we can do, but seeing the city from a different viewpoint, if I can kind of tease it for anybody that wants to come join us.
I'm so excited. Okay. I have a few more this or that's because I couldn't help it. So would you prefer a staycation runcation for folks or for yourself, or an overseas adventure?
So I have to say probably personally a staycation, just because I'm somebody that needs to plan every aspect out. So anything overseas still makes me a little anxious.
What? I'm so surprised to hear you say that.
Yes. See, I'm a creature of, I know this. I'm good. I have my RunDisney weekends in Florida down to a science, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. It's no big deal. I know what time I need to get to the airport, what time I need to have my bags dropped, all of that information, how long it takes me to get to one destination to the next. So when I kind of lose that sense of control and I have to kind of recalculate everything or trust others' knowledge, I tend to get a little anxious.
A little nervous? Okay.
Yes.
Well, the beauty of this response is that I do want to remind you guys too that I think a lot of locals to both Disneyland and Walt Disney World who have RunDisney events on their to-do list don't realize that they too can use your services, because while it may feel like a staycation, RunDisney is such a whole other animal that while you may be familiar with the parks, it's so much easier to have, again, Ashley's knowledge, because from like race registration all the way to those post finish line celebrations, she definitely can help fill in all of the spots for you on that. So my last little bit of this or that is, you have $1 million. Are you spending it at expo shopping spree, or do you want to go out and explore the local area and get some souvenirs that way?
Oh, I think definitely for me, it's going to be exploring the local areas. As many of you that know me know, Florida has my heart. I want to be down in Florida, although I'm in Pennsylvania. But just getting out and seeing the different culture in the area, those different local things. I love me some expo merch. I have a good bit myself, but there's only so much that you can keep. I was very lucky to get a Dobie jacket. That's kind of something that will always be sentimental to me, because it was a very special accomplishment. But I think if it was that much money, I'll take that out of my own pocket, and I'll go use your dime to explore the area, see the sights, do the things, see the different people, and I'm definitely a people person, so I will talk to anybody. So really getting to dive into the culture.
I love this. And I have to be honest, I'm surprised by this response, just because I assumed expos have shoes and gadgets and it's the like, gizmos and what's its and all of that stuff. I'm like, she's definitely going to want to spend her money there. But I can see it now that you explained it. You want to live in the experience of it all. I can see where that would be the case. Okay, my friend, we've covered quite a bit, but again, you guys don't have to take my word for it. You are welcome to reach out to Ashley directly to get more information about how to plan your runcation. Tell me what is maybe coming up, or what can folks look forward to as they maybe start to plan maybe their holiday shopping?
Yeah, so I obviously have a lot of different deals running on throughout the holidays with different vendors that I work with. So stay tuned to my social media, which should be in episode notes. There's a lot of exclusive deals coming. There might be one coming over the Black Friday weekend that you want to stay tuned for. So make sure you're signing up for that packing list for us, and we can go ahead and get that information over to you, so you're one of the first to know about that exclusive deal when you book with me. But I'm always here for any questions that anybody has, making sure you're getting the right gift for that right person if you're looking to give the gift of travel, because I always say there's nothing more that I love receiving a gift of travel. You get to make the memories with that individual. You get to see different things. You get to do those different things and have pictures, laughs, stories that will last a lifetime.
She's literally stolen the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say the exact same thing. So friends, you now officially know our love languages. You're welcome to gift us the gift of memory making through travel, but you can just go directly to Ashley and let her make those memories for you, so that you can have that spectacular experience. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we really gravitate towards running, because it does give us an opportunity to have more experiences and travel the world. So here you go. So friends, this special resource, I'm not kidding you, this track distances for all of the different cruise lines is an incredible resource. So if you're an avid cruiser, you're going to want this for you to easily be able to reference, because again, I know that you're going to be asking about how far do I need to run? How many laps do I need to do on this deck? And Ashley did all of the research for you. So you don't have to, again, as you would have her as your travel agent, you don't have to lift a finger to research it. You don't have to go to Google. She took out the guesswork. We also have that Runcation travel packing checklist, all available for you for download. So just use that link in our episode notes. And again, definitely check out Ashley with Mystical Dream Travel. She's got your back, whether you are river cruising through Europe or you are tackling RunDisney. The only question I have is, will you make me your +1? Because I want to go with you. So with that said, Ashley, thank you so much for imparting your wisdom with us all. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.